Okay, guys, what is up? Welcome back to, I guess a new video. How should we name this one? A video talking about classes, I guess. Let's just start with that. This is technically a part 2 from the previous video. If you haven't go check that out, it's mostly about Corsair. So if you are interested in that, that'll be linked at the end of the description, or maybe in the at the end of the video or in the description. Yeah, let's talk about it. So the new classes that are coming, the new classes that we currently have that are getting reworked, it's pretty much every class from Archer, so not Shy from what I understand, but Archer, all the way back to Warrior, Sork, Ranger, and Zerker. So the first bunch, like I call them like the year 1 classes. Technically Tamer is there as well, but the launch classes, and then the year 1 classes, which is like Mewa Musa, year 2, which is like kind of Kuno Ninja, even though they're in the same year, but you know what I mean, like those classes. So what I was hoping for in this rework. Now I know a lot of people are scared because you guys obviously love your class, right? You're not like me. If you're playing your one class, I don't want them to destroy your class. I don't want them to make you feel bad for, or like, or have you re-roll off of your class, or have you feel like you needed to play another class. I actually kind of feel bad for all these new classes coming out, and they just seem so much better. They're flavor of the month. PA wants you to kind of play them. They kind of almost force you to play them because they give you so much good rewards, but most people just, you go to Morocco and you get boosted. We all know this. But I wanted to go over how I would like PA to go across this. I'm in no way, shape, and form the best person. These are just my ideas. I hope you guys respect that, and I hope you guys maybe add something or tell me what you guys think as well, because I would love to hear your feedback and what you guys think about this. So basically, let's get straight into it, right? So my thoughts on each class currently, right, is there are some classes, for example, there are some classes like Guardian, or let's say, like, for example, maybe even like Awakening Warrior, right, where you're able to kind of sit in Awakening. So for example, like Guardian, you kind of can't just sit in Awakening the whole time. I think like Awakening Striker, Mystic as well. There are obviously some scenarios, for example, like PvP, where you kind of want to be using both, and that's what I wanted to get to. I'm not sure if I actually made a video on this specific topic before, but I hope you guys, enlighten me again, if I put it that way. What I would like to talk about is what they should do, right? The issue. Now, I don't want them to make every class busted, but I do want PvE to be equal throughout all classes. If your class is not good at PvE, like Tamer, fair enough, there's some classes I might list that might not be great, or might be great, but I just don't know how to play them, or I just don't see them being good. But for example, like Ninja Awakening, I just don't think he's that good in PvE. Tamer is one of them as well. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Obviously, there are some people who are pulling crazy numbers, and those people probably stick with their class since day one, since the day one that they started playing at least, and never ever roll off of them, and they just stick with it. But I do feel like, from my own experience, if I'm playing Guardian or if I'm playing LAN, the numbers are so significant in difference, where I feel like playing Ninja, for example, would not help me progress the way I would like. Obviously, I am a PvE Andy. I do love PvP. I think it's great. I just, hopefully with the new changes to PvP and the mindset that PA might have, I hope they give PvE more rewarding, like give us more rewards, give us more reason to play it. Doesn't have to be as good as grinding, but we're getting off topic, but you get the point, right? Like you could just make it more rewarding. Maybe I'll be able to pick it up and not feel as bad for not grinding 200 to 300 mil an hour, right? I think a lot of people would appreciate being more enticed to PvP, even though apparently Korea has 50% of the player base not wanting to PvP, which for me seems crazy, but it is what it is, right? It is what it is. So let's talk about the Awakening classes then. So sidetracking aside, there are a lot of people, and I think this is more than what you guys might know, but I do believe there are many people who just play this game for grinding, who just play this game because they like how the game looks, who just play this game just for the character creation, just for how boobs jiggle physics work in this game, just because they like a certain class or they like a fantasy or they like Korea, you know. And these people exist. Not everyone is a hardcore PvPer, hardcore PvEer, hardcore gamer, you know. And I think the majority of MMO players, and I could be wrong here in this statistic, but a lot of, from what I've experienced, a lot of people play BDO for PvE. I personally feel like if you play a game like Black Desert, you should be playing it for everything. And I'm a person that doesn't life skill, and I'm even like saying that to people who don't life skill as well. Like, you should try to obviously life skill. Again, sidetracking, but getting back to the point. In these scenarios where people enjoy a certain class but feel like they can't main it because of X, Y, and Z, I do feel like what PA is looking, and I hope that PA is looking at, is trying to make all classes at least equal in terms of grinding. I do not think that grinding on X class versus Y class should be so significant that there is like a clear disparity of, if you've grinded 10 hours with let's say Tamer, you grinded 10 hours with Striker, Striker's getting like an extra free hour or two, you know, in the end of the day, you know. And 10 hours is a lot, right? But I'm just using it as an example, right? Because that's how it works in the end. In the end, you pull more and you get more out of your time. And sadly, now I'm just using Striker as an example. I don't know if he's still busted. I have been on a hiatus on BDO for like 3 weeks. But my point still stands. What I'm hoping is that they make all PvE changes equal. And in terms of that, I would really like for them to just have a specific class get reworked, have the useless abilities in Awakening especially get reworked. And my biggest thought about this is adding Awakening 2, or Succession Awakening, if I put it that way, or you can call it Sleeping, or if you can call it Dreaming, or whatever the hell you want to call it. I'm calling it Awakening 2. Let me explain to you before you start rage typing at your keyboard and telling me I'm an idiot. I do think Awakening 2 is a good idea. Succession and Awakening, go back to 2016 if you played this. If you played a BDO back in 2016. If I told you Warrior was getting a great sword, and then he had to press C to switch it, and then he was going to be a great PvPer, people would have told you you're crazy. You know? If any great idea people shut down because they can't see it themselves, that doesn't mean that the idea isn't great, okay? And I'm not saying my idea is great or not, but hear me out on this at least, okay? I do believe that they can make Awakening 2, make that spec different than the other two specs, similar enough to that it's the same class, but different enough, and this might be harder for some classes, but different enough where it can shine in a specific area of the game where you would like it to. For example, and I'll give you an example of this. Let's say you have, and I'm going to use Awakening Ninja a lot because it's a class I played a lot. Awakening Ninja is, I would say, arguably better at 1v1 than Succession Ninja. Succession Ninja is arguably better at large scale than Awakening Ninja. I don't know where each of them stand right now in terms of PvE. I heard that Awakening Ninja is currently better. I heard Succession is currently better still than PvE. Succession was technically better for many reasons, and I think this is true for many classes. But I do want to say that all these classes can get reworked in a certain way where they have their cons in certain aspects and pros in certain aspects. And I'll share my thought process on this. I don't want to take away anything from Awakening Ninja, for example, or Kunoichi. If you love Kunoichi the way she is, I don't want you to take away anything from her there. I do, however, want to add, for example, Awakening 2. So you have Succession, pre-Awakening, let's call it, pre-Awakening / Succession. Then you have Awakening Ninja, which is like, I know it got buffed and it's kind of weird that I'm talking about it now, but, and I do like the buffs, by the way. But you still kind of, you know, or if you're, let's maybe take Sork for example. You're still kind of 50% in pre-Awakening, doing the buffs, doing this, and that's fine. But there are some people who don't want to play an Awakening Sork because they have to play pre-Awakening half of the time. Some people don't like the amulets, let's say, for example. If you like the amulet, that's fine. If you like both, that's fine. But Awakening 2 offers a different play style where you're using the scythe way more, you're less castery, and maybe more, you know, melee scythe slasher class instead. And the playstyle can change. It doesn't have to make it like it's just the best version that has better iframes. Maybe the iframes can be worse on, let's say, Awakening 2 Sork, but the grind is just vastly superior. The AoE slashes, maybe Violation, maybe Turnback Slash, they're all just way better. Where you never, you know, you'll never need to use pre-Awakening. And that's the biggest key about Awakening 2. So you will still have the original Awakening, but Awakening 2 will exist as like a Succession Awakening, where it will pull abilities from pre-Awakening or from Succession to Awakening, like, and make it an Awakening version, just like as Succession is done with Awakening. Maybe even the same key bindings, you know, maybe back C, front C, whatever, you know, Shift C. They're all viable key bindings that we have grown and gotten used to. And what we can do is have this class, which is a sorceress, as how someone imagined. I want to play a scythe class, or I want to play just a great sword class. And Awakening 2 will remove basically the abilities to C-swap back into to Succession pre-Awakening, giving you this, I would say, also maybe more simpler kit. Not necessarily, but I would say probably more simple in terms of, like, you know, if you had to compare Succession to Awakening, I would say most Successions are more simple than most Awakening classes, because you have to keep that C-swapping in mind. You have to make sure that, you know, you're using the Shift RMB from Awakening, you know, instead of the Shift RMB from pre-Awakening, because that does a completely different spell. You know, you just look at Sage, for example, or whatever. And we can take these ideas, right? And I'll give you some examples, right? So you like your warrior. You like being able to C-swap. I think warrior is a really bad example, by the way, but I'm going to use them anyways. I think warriors, when they pull their sword and shield out, and then they pull their great sword out, I think I would never want to. I would love to play warrior. If I was good at warrior, I would love to play warrior like that. I wouldn't just want to have the great sword, because I feel like warrior is like a man at arms. He kind of pulls the sword or the sword and the shield on, and he's like in block stance, and he just switches and pulls the great sword out and does, like, you know, what is it called? The beheading dead, slashing the dead. Sorry, and or grave digging or whatever. Solar flare, just stick the sword out really quick. You know, just quick 100% ability. It's just super great. But then you have, like, some people who just want to sit and be this big guts, never using a shield, just big sword slashing dude who just really wants to slash people up with this big sword. Maybe the movements might be worse. Maybe I don't know, maybe the class might be less mechanically in tune, but maybe he grinds better. Maybe that is the spec for grinding. Maybe it's more toned down in a more simpler terms. For example, I was actually watching Biceptimus, and he was saying he had to play Succession to go grind for Deboreka necklaces and Ash Forest, because Awakening for him wasn't feeling viable. Now, if he has to play another class, that'd be kind of sad, right? We know him as a warrior, for example, right? What if they made Awakening Warrior more like evasive, but maybe less, you know, mechanical, or just straight up just better for PvE? And hear me out with the PvE buffs, by the way. Whenever you look at an ability, and this is the best part with BDO as well. Whenever you look at an ability in the game, there is always, you know, there's a stats, if it's safe, if it's not safe, if it has a CC property, you know, all the different CCs you have, and then it always says at the end, more than likely, I think out of like 99 spells I've read, it always says damage reduced in PvP, right? That is the beauty of Black Desert Online, where the damage is always reduced in PvP, from what I've seen. So even if you have an ability that hits for 1800 times 7 or whatever, you know, I'm looking at like God Incinerator or whatever it hits for. Yes, God Incinerator is a bad example, but you get my point. It still hits, it doesn't actually hit 1800 times whatever, right? It's going to hit a lot less. It's still a great ability, but it's not actually hitting you for that number. The hidden tooltip might be damage reduced by 25%, you know, damage reduced by 10%. We don't know what they are because they haven't shown us, but they're there, and they tell us in the tooltip that that damage is not what it actually is said. Now, with going off of that, and I'll show you some more examples. So we have the warrior, you know, he's able to grind Ash Forest, he's enjoying his class, he doesn't have to play Guardian, he doesn't have to play Mystic or Lan or whatever, he just wants to play his warrior, he wants to be his class. That's what I want to give you guys. That's what I want PA to give us. I want to be able to play my class and play it in all three specs. I want to be able to learn Succession, I want to be able to be a Master at Awakening for PvP maybe, and I want to be a grinding god when I switch to Awakening 2, or Succession Awakening, whatever you want to call it. Dreaming. For example, I'll show you an example of this. I think Succession looks great, right, on Succession Ninja. Great looking class, has all the coolest effects, blood red, the shurikens, the friggin', you know, he has like his own katana shower pretty much. It's like, it's just great. He's a great looking class. But I still love my 6 katanas, and you can call me filthy weeaboo or whatever, but he still has the 6 katanas, and that alone makes me want to play Ninja Awakening. That's literally why I chose Ninja over Kunoichi. Not saying that Kunoichi is bad or anything, just for example. I'm really hoping that you guys understand what I'm going with this. But for example, with Awakening 2 on Ninja, he will be maybe less ninja-like, maybe less iframey. He'll still be able to iframe, he'll still be able to do the frontal guard. Maybe you can give him larger AoEs, for example. Maybe his clear could be faster. And this could go for all the classes, by the way. This can go for the Tamer. This can go for any class that you guys think is not grinding enough or is efficient enough. For example, I'll use a weird example here. Let's take one of the worst grinders in the game, right? We've talked about Tamer, but let's talk about, let's say, Musa or Meiwa. Have those classes, like Meiwa, have her Awakening 2's AoE just be vastly greater. Maybe steal, like, let's say for Musa, steal the whirlwind attack. So when he does his 100%, maybe there's a whirlwind that comes out with fire instead. So it like he hits that out, and then the fire like comes with the big X. You know, I know people don't use 100% in, you know, in actual like grinding and stuff. At least not for the most part that I know of. People obviously press Z and absorb it, but you get my gist, right? You can have that ability, and maybe Awakening 2 Musa might be just vastly superior than both classes. It's kind of hard to like kind of balance this. I obviously understand there's like there is some like underlying problems that each of these classes might have. You know, for example, what would like, I don't know, what would Guardian do? I mean, she's not really there, but like Guardians kind of just live in Awakening already. You know, Mystic, you kind of can live in Awakening. There is some abilities that you want to use in pre-Awakening, but you know, like she kind of does sit in Awakening for a lot of the time, or Lan as well. But I'm thinking like you can take pre-Awakening abilities, you can make that Awakening. I feel like that Awakening like skill tree is just so much smaller. Like you look through Succession, you're just like scrolling down the list. You know, there's like passives, there's 3 options for like wizard. You can choose this, and this. You know, there's like 5 different kinds of fireballs. You know, like obviously it's wizard, right? But memes aside, you get my point. I hope at least. So please let us get Awakening 2. That's how I would try to make the game. I think having a second or a third spec is very normal for games, having 3 specs to choose from, except for Demon Hunters in World of Warcraft. For some reason they only have 2, but most classes in World of Warcraft have 3 or even 4 specs, or specializations as they're called, and have the players choose what they want in that. Like have them, you know, have them go over if they want to play Awakening 2 Warrior and be the best Awakening 2 Warrior and show their skills. They might not be as flashy, they might not have the swapping, you know, they might not have X, Y, or Z, you know, but what they might have, they can make up for in damage, or they can make up for in AoE, or whatever. Because I don't think playing a warrior in large scale, I could be wrong, but I don't believe playing warrior in large scale could be very fun. From what I've heard, they just sit and block all day, and then they get that one time to, you know, and that could be like me overthinking this. That could be me not knowing how to play large scales, because I don't actually like Node War and stuff anymore, and I never have been in a siege. But I do want everyone to kind of like enjoy their class and be happy for their choice. And this is my only way of thinking. Like, I mean, what they could do is just buff the crappy abilities in Pre-Awakening and buff the crappy abilities like back LMB, for example, on Ninja, or is it Secret Sword Dance, or is it back RMB? One of those. Back RMB as well, I guess. It's not really like an ability you would use. It's not even really a filler. You know, you kind of just... Like, for me, it feels like you kind of just use like 2-3 abilities in Awakening and then you switch back to Pre-Awakening. And that really feels bad. And I really hope that people see that in some classes, you know. In regards to Tamer, I wouldn't be able to, as I've not touched on it. It's because I haven't actually played the class. I have played many classes in this game. I have a lot of them at like 61 and 62. No, sorry, a lot of them getting to 62. They're already 61, but they're almost at 62 already. Which is not like, it's not really hard to do that, but I've been playing a boatload of classes, and I actually know, and I'm very in detail of how the classes look, play, how they feel, and I've dabbled with a lot of classes, unironically. So I really hope that in the end, I don't know how this video is gonna come across. It's probably gonna be very ranty, and I do apologize, but I really hope that, you know, if I could just sit in PA's office, I would really try to make the best of, like, I would really put my hardest, even for Tamer, and I know people think I hate Tamer, but even for Tamer, I would do my best to try and make each class play really well. For Tamer, I'd probably make Helyang more, like, integrated with the character, not be like this kind of, like, side thing. And, like, I like that, you know, Tamer's probably like that the Helyang can stun randomly and stuff. I think that's great. But maybe Awakening 2, she could be, like, really just, like, using the staff, for example, and maybe have Awakening be... you know, like just a hybrid of both, and then Succession being more like Helyang focused. I would probably just rework Tamer completely. As for the staff, I do think, like, I really love staffs in the game, and I think Tamer, like, unironically, when I did see some really good Tamer gameplay, I was like, oh, that actually looks really crazy. Like, that staff, the jump, you know, obviously we all know about the, I think, is it the 100%? We all know about that, like, when she just jumps in and kills you, you know, and you see it in the trailer, right, and it's devastating. I don't know how much damage or what kind of damage that thing does, but it's like, it looks kind of elemental as well. You know, she feels like Aang the Airbender kind of feeling. That's what I get when I look at her. And sadly, it's a very underrated class, you know. And I wish classes like that, because back in the day, like back in 2016, you saw a lot of Tamers. People picked Tamer because it had Helyang, because it can ride on because they could ride on Helyang, you know. So a lot of people picked Tamer actually because they know that Kuno Ninja were going to come out. So it was close that I was going to pick Tamer, and that short sword was shared by Kuno Ninja. So, you know, we thought maybe if we play the class with the short sword and stuff, maybe we can you know, maybe we can give the plus 12 bears sword over to the Ninja and Kuno whenever they release. A lot of people like roll off of Tamer to go Kuno. I remember that. I remember that day when Kuno came out, actually, in Ninja. But yeah, if I can touch on anything, I would just if I can go over like some classes, if I can think of another class, and I'll use Zerker as an example as well, because I want to use another old class. I remember Zerker's Awakening when it came out. Plenty of people didn't like it. It was kind of like the feeling that people felt with Nova a bit. It was really like left out of like the blue, kind of like, you know, it was like a really like, oh, what the hell is that? Like, it's the Mega Man, you know, it's freaking Mega Man. He's just jumping and he's doing a rocket jump, you know, and people just didn't like that. They felt it looked janky, you know. A lot of people just didn't like Zerker, and I think a lot of people, like, a lot of the Zerkers know that when they picked Zerker, like, they went, like, the people who still play Zerker, you know, they went ham on Zerker, you know. They really went ham on Zerker. And I feel like, personally, like, if you look at a Zerker player right now, I'm just thinking, like, this dude is about to mess me up. If he comes to my grind spot, I'm screwed already, you know? That's, like, literally the thing. Like, there's a lot of warrior players, but the Zerker player base is very, like, condensed, you know? So when you meet a Zerker, you're gonna get messed up, in my opinion. Like, I'm super scared of Zerkers, especially at NA Zerkers. I think NA Zerkers are really scary. Speaking of an NA Zerker, I just want to say rest in peace to Swerve as well. I just found out about the news earlier today. I was a bit sad, actually. So I hope his family's doing well. I came to his stream many times. I used to watch him actually grind pirates. So just a quick disclaimer. I'm actually going to probably link Swerve's Twitch in the description. And this is not for any clickbait or anything, but I just wanted to shout him out, because we'll never get to see such an awesome content creator again, sadly. So yeah. I'm trying not to cry. I'm trying not to like sound, you know. But yeah, I really think like watching Swerve, for example, completely changed my mind on how Zerker is. You know, back in the day, that was back in Pirates, by the way. That was back in like 2000. Like that's when before Striker came out. I was watching him. You know, back in 2017 when Striker came out. You know, so I don't know. Any final thoughts for me? To be honest, with Zerker Awakening, or Awakening 2 on Zerker, how I would make it, and I don't know if many Zerker players would agree with me on this, but I would like for you guys to imagine Zerker in Q buff all the time. That's what Zerker Awakening 2 would be. Awakening 2 would be a class that is just like Awakening, but just way more Awakening abilities. Just add more Awakening abilities, add more key inputs to it, give it more mobility, give it more. If it needs X, Y, or Z, just let them have it. You know, it doesn't need to be a fully iframe god class that can CC you and has protected CC and all that stuff. It doesn't need to be all of that, but it, you know, just be like more, just be in rocket form. Just shoot your hand cannon. There's someone out there that wants to play Q buff Zerker, but all the time, you know, without being so busted, you know. But you know what I mean, like a more mellowed down Q buff Zerker. And you guys can imagine all the kinds of abilities that Zerker already has, and just imagine like how much more they can add, and how unique that class is. Because I really felt like Zerker, I would love to play a Mega Man one day. You know, I would just love to sit and just play Mega Man Zerker. I personally like Succession Zerker a lot myself, even though with the mana problems I was complaining about. I still think Succession Zerker, Awakening 2 Zerker would be a really cool playstyle and very niche playstyle for a player base that maybe doesn't exist yet, or maybe there is some Zerkers out there that just, you know, they just love playing Cube of Zerker. I know a lot of Zerkers already like Awakening Zerker. But yeah, sorry if this video is really ranty and long. I'm gonna upload it, and I hope that you know, it reaches out to the right people. But yeah, what else can I say? It was great watching the Arena of Arsha, and I hope you guys enjoy Corsair. She's coming out soon. I have the video paused because I would get distracted and, you know, rant more. But these abilities, they look so amazing. I do have to add that I'm a big fan of the water effect. I'm not sure if I'm going to reroll though, but yeah. Let me know what you guys think about the new class changes, what you guys think will happen in the description below if you guys want to check that out. If you haven't stopped by my stream yet, or if you haven't subscribed or followed or anything like that, please feel to just, you know, stop by at any time. We'll have a chat, we'll have this chat, we'll continue this chat there. I love talking about classes, I love talking about ideas. I'm a very open person, and I hope to find like-minded players with a like-minded openness, because I do think, you know, great ideas should be heard, and there's nothing hard, like, what's the worst that can happen, you know? If you want to see my Corsair video, my previous video talking about Corsair and stuff, feel free to go back and or at the end of the description, at the end of the video there will be a link to that video. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. So I'll catch y'all maybe soon, but yeah, peace out, and thank you for watching. You have a good day.